Hollywood's golden age looked perfect from the outside. Bright lights, glamorous stars, and movie posters that showed beautiful faces smiling back at the world. But behind the camera, behind the makeup, and behind the fame, there were parents whose behavior was so cruel that it left deep scars on the very children who helped make Hollywood shine. These children weren't just actors. They were victims of a system that didn't protect them, families that didn't love them, and parents who cared more about money and fame than the happiness of their own kids. This chapter begins with a painful truth. Some of Hollywood's most talented young stars suffered the most at home. One of the earliest and most shocking stories comes from a young girl named Judy Garland. Even before the world knew her as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, Judy lived under the strict and often frightening control of her mother, Ethel Gum. While the world adored Judy's smile, her mother controlled every second of her life. Judy once said that her childhood never felt happy, not even for a moment. Ethel forced her to perform even when she was sick, exhausted, or crying. Before shows, Judy was given pills to stay awake, pills to sleep, and pills to keep her thin. She was told she was never good enough, never pretty enough, and never valuable unless she was making money. Other child stars from the golden age had similar stories. Many parents signed contracts that allowed studios to control their children's schedules, their diets, their routines, everything. But some parents were even worse than the studios. They used their children like money machines. They lied, manipulated, threatened, and punished them if they dared to rest or complain. Fame became a cage, and the parents held the key. Hollywood's bright lights covered a darkness that most fans never saw. When audiences watched these kids smile on screen, they didn't see the tears behind those smiles. They didn't know the pressure these children faced at home. And they had no idea how many of these young stars were growing up scared, lonely, and unsure if their parents loved them at all. This chapter opens the door to a hidden world, a world where parents were supposed to protect their children, but instead became the source of their deepest pain. In the following chapters, the stories become even more shocking, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. Judy Garland became one of the most beloved stars in Hollywood history, but behind her voice and her smile was a mother whose actions were remembered as some of the cruelest in the industry. Ethel Gum didn't see Judy as a daughter. She saw her as an investment, a product, and the family's ticket to money and fame. From the moment Judy could walk, Ethel pushed her into performing. While other children played with toys, Judy was rehearsing, traveling, and singing in smoky theaters late into the night. Ethel controlled everything Judy ate, everything she wore, and everything she did. As Judy grew older, her mother became even more demanding. Hollywood wanted Judy to be thin, energetic, and available at all times, and Ethel made sure that happened, no matter the cost. Judy was given pills to stop her hunger, pills to wake her up, and pills to force her to keep going when her body was begging for rest. Ethel didn't ask how Judy felt. She didn't care if she was tired, scared, or sad. To her, Judy's emotions were just distractions that got in the way of work. When Judy was cast in The Wizard of Oz, everyone said she was living a dream. But Judy later admitted that the dream felt like a nightmare. Her mother visited the set not to support her, but to pressure her. Ethel yelled at her if she didn't smile big enough. She threatened her if she complained about her grueling schedule. And she reminded her every day that their family depended on her success. Judy once said that her mother was the real reason she learned to fear failure. Even after Judy became a global superstar, Ethel never changed. She still demanded money, still criticized her, and still expected Judy to sacrifice her own happiness. Judy tried many times to break free, but her mother came back again and again, using guilt, manipulation, and emotional pressure to stay in control. The tragedy of Judy Garland's life didn't start with Hollywood. It started at home. Her mother's cruelty shaped her insecurities, her addictions, and the emotional wounds she carried for the rest of her life. Behind Dorothy's ruby slippers was a child who never got to be a child, all because her own mother treated love like a business deal. In the next chapter, another shocking Hollywood parent steps into the spotlight, one whose behavior was just as damaging, and in some ways, even worse. Shirley Temple was the biggest child star of the 1930s, a symbol of joy during the darkest years of the Great Depression. Her curls, her dimples, and her bright smile brought hope to millions. But behind that image was a mother whose obsession with perfection turned Shirley's childhood into a carefully controlled performance. Gertrude Temple, Shirley's mother, was known for being strict, demanding, and unbending. Every curl in Shirley's hair, every step in her dance routines, every expression on her face was dictated by her mother. Before the world even woke up, Shirley was already practicing. Gertrude would watch her like a coach, correcting her posture, her smile, and her movements. She hardly allowed Shirley to play with other kids because she believed friendships would distract her from fame. She monitored her food, her sleep, and her schedule with military precision. Even Shirley's hair was controlled. Gertrude insisted on creating and maintaining Shirley's famous 56 curls for every appearance, no matter how long it took or how uncomfortable it made her. On set, Gertrude controlled more than just Shirley's image. Studio workers often said she hovered over Shirley like a shadow, watching every interaction, every conversation, every rehearsal. If Shirley showed the slightest hint of fatigue, sadness, or frustration, Gertrude reminded her that millions of people were counting on her. She made her feel responsible for keeping America's spirits up, even though she was just a child. But the cruelty became even clearer as Shirley grew older. When she expressed a desire to attend school like a normal girl, her mother dismissed it. Gertrude believed education would slow her career. When Shirley wanted free time to simply be a child, her mother increased her commitments instead. Gertrude refused to let Shirley make choices, even about the clothes she wore or the movies she acted in. She viewed Shirley as a brand, not a daughter. Money was another painful part of the story. Shirley Temple earned millions during her childhood career, yet later learned that most of the money had been spent or mismanaged. Her parents had treated the fortune she earned as their own. By the time she became a teenager, much of her childhood wealth had vanished. Shirley Temple grew up admired by the world, yet tightly controlled by her mother. Her innocence was preserved on screen, but taken away behind the scenes. She learned early that her mother's love was wrapped in conditions, expectations, and pressure, leaving her struggling to find her own identity. Mickey Rooney became one of the most successful entertainers of the 20th century, but his path to fame began with a father whose cruelty shaped his entire life. Long before he became a Hollywood legend, Mickey was a small boy performing in cheap vaudeville acts, pushed onto the stage by parents who cared more about the spotlight than their son's happiness. His father, Joe Yule, was not just strict. He was violent, unpredictable, and deeply controlling. Joe Yule saw performing as the only future for his son. From the time Mickey could walk, Joe forced him to rehearse, dance, and act, whether he wanted to or not. When Mickey cried or begged for a break, his father ignored him. If Mickey made a mistake on stage, Joe didn't guide him gently. He yelled at him or punished him. Mickey later said that he learned early on that fear was his father's main teaching tool. As Mickey's talent grew, so did Joe's demands. He made Mickey work long hours in smoky theaters filled with adults, noise, and chaos no child should have been exposed to. He dragged him from city to city, never allowing him to settle, rest, or form friendships. Mickey carried heavy costumes, slept backstage, and lived in constant tension. His childhood wasn't built on fun or learning. It was built on survival. When Hollywood discovered Mickey Rooney, the studios offered him a chance at stability. But even then, his father stayed close, pushing him into more roles, more rehearsals, more pressure. Joe wanted control over Mickey's contracts and earnings, and whenever he felt that control slipping, he lashed out. Mickey described his father as a man who treated him less like a son and more like a tool to regain his own fading fame. Emotionally, the damage was even deeper. Mickey never felt protected or supported by his father. Instead, he grew up believing that love had to be earned through perfect performances. The fear planted in him as a child followed him for decades, affecting his relationships, confidence, and mental health. Even as an adult, making millions and winning awards, Mickey admitted he struggled with the voice of his father still echoing in his head. Mickey Rooney's story shows how fame built on fear destroys innocence. His father didn't guide him, he controlled him. He didn't nurture him, he pushed him until the line between childhood and work disappeared completely. Mickey became a star, but the cost was a childhood filled with fear and pressure that no child should ever experience. Natalie Wood grew up to be one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses, known for her beauty, her talent, and her emotional depth. But long before she became a star, she lived under the shadow of a mother whose ambition crossed every boundary. Maria Zakharenko, Natalie's mother, was determined to make her daughter famous, and she didn't care what it cost. Not even Natalie's emotional safety. Her obsession with stardom turned Natalie's early years into a cycle of manipulation, pressure, and fear. Maria believed that success was the only path to security, and she treated Natalie as the family's lifeline. From the moment Natalie showed the slightest charm, her mother pushed her into auditions. She made her rehearse lines again and again, sometimes late into the night. Maria controlled Natalie's clothes, her friends, her voice, and even her emotions. If Natalie cried from exhaustion, Maria told her to hide it. If Natalie felt scared, she told her to act brave. Maria didn't allow her to express anything that didn't fit the perfect Hollywood image she wanted to create. What made Maria's behavior even more disturbing was the way she used fear to keep Natalie obedient. She constantly warned her that failure would destroy the family. She threatened that the studios would abandon her. She told her that one mistake could ruin everything. Natalie grew up terrified of disappointing her mother, believing that her worth depended entirely on her success. But the darkest part of Natalie Wood's childhood came from her mother's willingness to sacrifice her daughter's safety for opportunity. When Natalie was very young, Maria pushed her into situations that no child should experience, including dangerous stunts and emotionally disturbing scenes. On one film, Natalie was forced to do a water scene that terrified her, yet Maria insisted she continue, ignoring her daughter's panic and tears. Natalie later said she never felt protected, not at home, not on set, not anywhere her mother was in control. As Natalie grew older, Maria's grip tightened instead of loosening. She interfered in Natalie's relationships, criticized her body, and monitored her career choices. Maria even controlled the interviews Natalie gave, making sure she said only what would please fans and studios. Natalie lived her entire childhood walking on eggshells, trying to keep her mother satisfied, even when it meant sacrificing her own needs. Natalie Wood became a legend, but her inner world was shaped by the emotional manipulation and pressure placed on her from the start. Her mother's cruelty didn't involve physical harm. It was psychological, deep, and lasting. Natalie's fame came with a painful truth. She never got to choose her own path. Jackie Coogan became one of the first true child superstars in Hollywood history. Audiences adored him in silent films like The Kid with Charlie Chaplin. His sweet face and natural charm made him one of the highest-paid child actors of the 1920s. To the world, he looked like the luckiest boy alive. But behind the fame was a heartbreaking truth. Jackie's father, and later his stepfather and mother, cared far more about his money than his happiness. His story became one of the most shocking examples of parental greed in Hollywood's golden age. Jackie worked long hours as a child, often in emotional roles that were difficult even for adults. Chaplin tried to protect him on set, but once Jackie went home, he faced a family that saw him as their financial rescue. His father set the tone early, spending Jackie's earnings freely and treating them as if they were his own. The money paid for luxury homes, vacations, cars, expensive parties, everything except Jackie's future. When Jackie's father died, things only got worse. Jackie's mother remarried a man who made it very clear that he believed every dollar Jackie earned belonged to the adults in the house. Jackie kept working, kept performing, kept giving the world unforgettable films. But when he grew older and finally asked about his savings, he discovered the unthinkable. Almost everything he had earned, millions of dollars, was gone. It had been spent by the very people who were supposed to protect him. The betrayal broke Jackie's heart. He said he felt like his entire childhood had been stolen. He had worked tirelessly for years, hoping to build a secure future, only to realize that he had nothing to show for it. When he confronted his mother, she showed little remorse. She insisted the money was theirs, not his. His stepfather even mocked him, saying that children had no right to money they earned. Jackie's case became so public and so shocking that it forced Hollywood and lawmakers to finally pay attention. His story led to the creation of the Coogan Law, which required parents to protect part of their child's earnings. Jackie's suffering created change, but at a devastating personal cost. His story stands as a heartbreaking reminder of how cruel parents could be during Hollywood's golden age. Jackie Coogan wasn't just robbed of money. He was robbed of trust, love, and a secure childhood. His pain helped protect future generations, but he lived his own life, carrying the weight of betrayal that started in his own home.